Hi everybody, Dhaman Mehta here, and thank you for once again joining me on my journey as I go through my favorites list on fanfiction.net. Let's just dive into these stories, so we'll make a shorter video this time. First story we have is called Blackmail by Alan P3989. And this is a one-shot of Haruhi Suzumiya where Kyon basically decides he deserves a little something for, taking care of the universe all the time and just wants to set up a little nest egg. It's mildly amusing, but nothing you really need to see more than once, and it's not going to stay on my list. Number 2 is In the Mind of a Scientist by ZenoNoKyuubi. And this is a Harry Potter story that you can consider it a crossover, but you could also just consider it a straight Harry Potter story. Basically, Harry grows up with a more scientific bent, and it becomes an unhinged mad scientist a la Stein from Soul Eater. And that's where you can consider this a sort of crossover, because he doesn't just become like Stein. He basically turns himself into Stein with the bolt on his head, the scars, everything, and the crazy behavior. He basically is Stein. It's a crossover in all but name. And there isn't much more to say about it. Stein's behavior is there, so he's just using science and magic in random ways that casually destroy all his, villains and stuff like that. And while I don't think it's gonna be anyone's all-time favorite, I had a very fine time going through this. I found it to be very comfortable in the easygoing food that TV show that you don't have to pay too much attention to. Same kind of thing where it's a fic that I wouldn't mind reading it mindlessly and just getting some nice comfort and enjoyment out of it again. And it has bonus points for being complete with 2 sequels to it that actually go into crossover territory with others. I think the first sequel is a Stargate Atlantis sequel right into the thing. So I enjoy this a lot. It's gonna stay on my list. Number 3 is The Lost Summer by Belcris. And this is another Harry Potter story. This one takes place after the books, but doesn't take the epilogue. So after the Hogwarts fight. And it's a short story where Harry goes off to France, meets a girl, falls in love, and then comes back to England to basically yell at the Weasleys for a bit and then leave. I really don't know why this was put on my list. It's really just nothing with a little bit of drama, and I just don't know why. When I was rereading this, what caught my attention the first time, or why it got onto my list at all in the first place. But it's pretty banal. Nothing. You'll probably forget this an hour after reading it. It's not going to stay on my list anymore. Next is The Prince of Swords by Toma FF, and this is a Sora Online fanfic where basically the difference seems to be that Kirito is more competent and amazing than he was in canon, which is kind of fine enough. He's more confident, so he goes the full harem route this time instead of canon with only Asuna. And it's again just there's a few bits of comedy sprinkled here and there, but overall the story itself is unsurprising, and it's also just super competent. Hero saves the day of everything without any really said, aside from the small bits of comedy. It's just kind of dull. It's it's nothing objectionable. You'll feel okay reading it, but I would never go looking for this fic or try to seek it out on my own. It's gonna fall off my list. All right, number 5 is Fate Shiro by Shin Toyu, and this is a Fate Stay Night fic where instead of the normal people they summon, all of the masters summon a Shiro, a different version of Shiro. There's some big changes because there's a lot of different masters, and obviously the servants are all very different because they're all Shiros from different timelines and stuff. But overall, it's like it's a good idea that has a lot of promise, but the story was incomplete, so there's just not there's no hijinks, there's not a lot of like funny stuff. It barely gets past like the second day of the war. It falls into the pit of stories that had a good idea but didn't expand enough to be worth reading while being incomplete. So it's gonna fall off my list. Alright, second to last for this video is Death of a Hero by Kinsfire. And this is another author who took a snippet from Rorschach Blot, his Odd Ideas collection, and expanded it a little. This time, unlike the other like 3 or 4 times this has happened, this one is complete, and they decided to keep it as a one-shot, which is good and bad. And like good in that it's a complete full like idea. Kind of bad in the sense that there isn't a lot more added here from the original. There are a few scenes, but it's actually very, very minor difference between the original and this. I would say there's maybe 3 or 4. I would say 3 or 4 scenes, including the last final scene, that are added. But again, they all fit the tone of the original snippets well enough that it doesn't feel jarring. And just the fact that it's complete is, gives it bonus points. And I like this snippet enough that just having it separate kind of would have been worth it to leave it on my list by itself. But having the additional bits and having it feel more whole, I enjoy this a lot. It's entertaining. Good for not as much of a laugh as you'd think. This is more more of a semi-serious thing with a big joke at the end, but I liked it. It's going to stay on my list. And the last one for this video is God Slaying Blade Works by Marcus Gallen Sands. And this is basically, as it proclaims in the description, the first Fate Stay Night / Campion crossover that was posted in that category on fanfiction.net. It is a long-ass fic, almost 1.3 million words at this point. Just got updated last August, even though it was published in 2012, so it's still going strong after 9 years. It is a behemoth of a thing where Shiro and Ilya, after the Heaven's Feel ending, get taken to the Campion world, and Shiro becomes the 8th Devil King. It is supremely overwritten. I will admit that there is a lot that, like, a lot of times where 5 paragraphs could have been condensed into a couple of sentences, but there's a lot that leads most of it just being a lot of over detailed, just overly detailed descriptions and a lot of going in, but also there's a lot of like fights that go super into detail and expand like big. I'm pretty sure there was, even with how long these chapters are, I'm pretty sure like there's one section where there's one fight that goes on for like 6 chapters, which is huge amount of thing. That's books are shorter than this fight scene. But at the same time, I did find it a lot engaging. I found it to be interesting. There's a lot of harem shenanigans, which I like that kind of stuff. Like when it's like the pure comedy bits that come with it. I can see why other people would be put off, especially by the intimidating length and just the fact that it's still incomplete even after all this. But like I said, it's still being updated relatively recent-ish. So I think, if you want to read it, I would say go like 5 chapters in and see if you're still interested. I liked it. Maybe not the hugest favorite, best thing in the world, but I did find it very interesting and engaging, and it's going to stay on my list. And that's it for this video. Fanfiction status time. I have now read 801 stories, and 385 of them have stayed on my list. So thank you so much for watching. As always, I will leave links to my fanfiction.net profile, the Sufficient Velocity forum where I also post this, as well as links to all the stories in the description of this video. Leave a like if you like this video or my comments. Leave a comment if you think my taste is shit. And I will see you next time. Take care.